Hello everyone, welcome to the Located Locum webinar. This webinar is an interesting one. It's a Locums guide to money. So we'll be covering applications, taxes and rates. We're a really privileged position to be joined by Alison Ensor, who's the CEO of Foremans LLP. So the format of the webinar will be that Located Locum will take the lead, and we will take you through applications, the magic number, travelling outside your radius and community, rates and how to avail of higher rates as a locum, and then we'll hand over to Alison, who will take us through everything about taxes and how to sort of make the best out of situation and expenses and things. It's a really detailed piece of the webinar, which is really fantastic, and they put a lot of work in. And then we'll go on to Q&A. And I'd stress that let's make this as interactive as possible. We love engagement on these webinars with the audience. So you'll see that on the right-hand side of your screen, you should have a section where you can input questions. So if you input those questions throughout the presentation, we'll stop at the end and have a Q&A, but I can give you answers live as well. And the questions, we'll try my best to give you answers. Just a bit of housekeeping. If you guys need to leave at any point, that's completely fine. We will send a recording of the webinar tomorrow, but please do stay on for the questions. Usually at the questions you get some really great insights. Also, massive thank you to everyone who's joined so far and who's joining. I think we have around 300 people registered for this webinar, so it's been a pretty popular one. It was nearly a full house, so we're lucky we're doing it remotely. So yeah, a huge thank you. I know you guys are all busy, but hopefully you're gonna really get some value out of this webinar. I think the resources we put together and the insights we're gonna go into about things that are of value to our local community are really gonna be fantastic, and you're gonna really benefit from them. So first up, as I said, this is going to be fairly interactive, this webinar. So I'm going to launch a poll just to get an idea of where the audience is from. So you'll see the poll come into your screen. Just all you have to do is click the region that you're from. So I usually give this about 30 seconds, and then we close it off and we share the results and we get a quick oversight of where people are from. It's good. Everyone's doing well so far. I think we've got the majority of people, around 90% of people have voted. 5 more seconds and we will close it off. So yeah, close that off. There you go. So 46% of people are from Southwest, Southeast or East England, and then Northern Ireland, Scotland, Wales closely behind. So it's really interesting, just a broad mix of audience here for us, which is great. And yeah, we're really happy about that. So I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Stevie McIntyre. I'm the marketing manager of Located Locum. So I'm going to hand over to Lauren, who's a digital marketing specialist here, and Lauren's going to take you through the Located Locum parts. It's okay, Lauren, I'll hand over to you.
Okay, thank you for that, Stevie. Hello everyone, and welcome to our second webinar of the series. The turnout for this webinar is absolutely amazing, and we're so grateful for you all giving up your time this evening to attend. There's a lot to get through, so I'm going to try and make this as quick fire as possible, and if you have any questions, just please feel free to ask them throughout, and as Stevie has mentioned, we'll be able to answer them all at the end. Okay, so we're just going to look now at applications and what is the magic number. For every shift posted, only one person can win it, but we have a magic number which makes you more likely to win a shift with us. Our data reflects that for every 4 applications that you make, you will win 1 shift. For us, we believe that 4 is the magic number, and so we encourage you to continue making applications and applying to shifts to increase your chances of winning. So for every 4 to 5 applications made, a locum wins a shift. We aren't sure why this is, but it seems to be a running trend, and we wanted to highlight it to you. With regards to anyone on here who has been unsuccessful to date in their applications, try not to get too disheartened, and it could potentially be because you aren't applying for the right shifts or are applying to shifts which are in extremely high demand. We recommend anyone experience a high level of knockbacks to consider travelling outside their radius where you have a higher chance of winning shifts, but also you'll have an opportunity to make more money and avail of higher rates as well. So for example, if you make 20 applications, i.e. apply for 20 shifts, then you'll be more likely to win a minimum of 4 shifts, but this isn't guaranteed, as you could win all 20 or you could just win 10. Finally, any help that we can provide throughout this process, please do let us know, as we want to be able to make as many, we want to be able to help you in your journey of making as many applications as you can, and want to be able to help you to win shifts too. We have found that when applications come in for a shift, the pharmacy reviews them in terms of experience and accreditations. So we encourage you to take up any additional CPD that you can. Of course, flu jab training is extremely topical at the moment, and with flu season looming ahead, it seems that this training is becoming more and more important. We're actually planning on providing CPD going forward and are in the final stages of this at the moment. So we'll keep you updated on when we are able to offer this to you. So please keep an eye out on your emails in the next couple of weeks for further information regarding this. So this is just a quick demo. We thought that it might actually be beneficial for us to show you what the pharmacy sees when your application comes through after you apply for a shift through us. So as you can see in the video, the pharmacy manager or coordinator can see and use the Rota product like as shown. This is what it looks like whenever they see shifts coming through on their end. The pharmacy coordinator or manager can also view and look at your profile. They have the ability to be able to approve or decline your application. You're in complete control of winning shifts based on, your documentation being uploaded, profile photo, contact information, and by having a more fuller profile, you're giving off a great first impression to any employer who is reviewing your application. So we're going to move on now to the bookings team. Okay, so a lot of you may or may not know this, but we have a dedicated bookings team who are at hand to manage your diaries and help you with any queries you might have regarding your shifts. I've just noted down in bullet points here just to give you an overview of what they do and what they're responsible for so that you can use them as and when you need. So our team are responsible for coordinating and ensuring all healthcare professionals are placed into different pharmacies across the country through the use of our digital platform. They're there to help facilitate suitable candidates into positions for pharmacies across the entire UK and Ireland. And they are expert booking coordinators that also find suitable placements for pharmacists, technicians and dispensers from Southampton all the way to Aberdeen. It's always nice to put a face to a name, and some of you may have spoken to some of our coordinators on the phone or by email. So we're just going to go through them and the regions that they look after. So here we have Alison, and she looks after Scotland and Northern Ireland. Then moving on now, we have Michael, who looks after Wales and Northwest England. And then we have Kieran next, who looks after the Northeast England and the Midlands. Yorkshire and the Humber is jointly looked after by both Michael and Kieran, and then looking after Southwest, Southeast and East England is Ryan. These coordinators are available every weekday from 9 AM to 5 PM with some on call on Saturdays too for any urgent inquiries. So the same way we have the bookings team, we also have our compliance team to help you out if you're struggling to upload your documents or if you have any queries around accreditations. In our compliance team, we have Sammy, who's our compliance team lead, Kenny, who's a compliance officer, and we also have Colin, who is also our compliance officer. So I'm just going to hand back across to Stevie, and we're just going to do another quick poll.
Okay, guys. Yeah, so hopefully you find this interesting so far. Just before we move on to the poll, we've had a really good question. It's from Ranjit. Basically saying that when you apply, you say multiple applications. Could you clarify multiple applications, but all on different dates? I'll field this question. So our system's smart. You cannot be double booked. Once you're booked on a shift, you cannot be booked again by a coordinator. It'll blank that out, and your application will be taken away. So you can apply for multiple shifts on the same day. Obviously, it'd be fantastic if you filled up your whole diary with shifts through Located Locum. So hopefully that answers the question. You can apply to your heart's content. You'd never be double booked. So just moving on to the poll. obviously we just trying to get a feeling if anyone's interested in speaking to our compliance team and getting a little help, either winning shifts or getting approved and getting those essential documents and accreditations in place. So I'll just put out a little poll as again, try and be as candid as possible here, and I'll just launch it, and it's just a simple yes or no. I'll give you 30 seconds just to complete that poll, and then we will hand back to Lauren. And see, everyone's flying through it, so maybe it won't even take 30 seconds for the poll. Okay, fantastic. That's 99% of people have voted, so that's great turnout. So we'll do that now. I'll close that off. Share results, yeah, about 50-50. So half of you guys are interested in speaking to the team. It's fantastic. So what we'll do is we will follow up with those people who are interested, and we'll get you get a chat with some of the guys, or send you some information via email, just depending on what you prefer. But I'll hand back to Lauren now. It's really interesting. Thank you very much for voting there.
That's great. Thank you very much, Davey, and thanks everyone for voting. So we're just going to move on now to the community. So we have decided to change the way we do things with regards to our community. We're going to get rid of staff treats, which is our discounts platform, and replace it with an entirely new process. So the way it's going to work going forward is that from now on, for every 5 applications made, you will unlock something new from us. So this could be a discount code or a freebie. It could be cash, or it could even be like entry into some of our exclusive WhatsApp groups that some of you may be a part of at the moment. So at the moment, we have a pharmacy support group, which we run, that has near 200 locums in it. And it's just a general group for industry updates. And it's great to be part of in terms of meeting new people and gaining advice on training. Then we have our other WhatsApp groups, which have all of our locums from Locate a Locum in it, who have made more than 20 applications with us. If you have made more than 20 applications and haven't gained entry into these groups, then please check your emails, as we sent out one last week with links to different regions, and you can just click the region that you're in and you can just join. In these groups, you can speak directly with myself or our bookings team, who will be posting emergency shifts, stayaways and permanent positions in specific regions, and we'll also be there to answer any questions that you might have. So keep an eye on your emails and keep applying for shifts, and you'll be able to avail of everything from discounted CPD courses to us even paying for your insurance for the year. This also benefits you, as I've outlined previously. The more applications made, the more shifts that you can win. We still have our refer a friend scheme running. So for those who don't know, if you refer a friend to sign up with us, we will issue you and your friend with £10 each. This is of course subject to your friend working at least 1 shift with ourselves. Finally, some of you who are on this webinar might already know this, but we also reimburse your DBS certificate once you work 10 shifts through us. All you need to do is work 10 shifts, send us a copy of your invoice, and we can issue this refund to you within 90 days. So rates. Okay, so moving on now to rates and how you might be able to get higher rates for the regions that you're based in. So top 3 things that I wanted to highlight here is our negotiation tool, which you may have seen on the app. Benefits traveling outside your radius for work, and the importance of CPD and training in the eyes of pharmacy owners. In our last webinar, we talked about the negotiation tool and how to use it. And just to clarify, because I think there was some confusion around this last time, the negotiation tool is only enabled when the pharmacy enables it on their end. This changes from pharmacy to pharmacy. However, if you apply for the shift and contact our bookings team afterwards, be it through the WhatsApp group or directly, we might be able to contact the pharmacy directly for you to see if they would consider your negotiation. Traveling outside your radius is considered to be something that a lot of our locums are finding most beneficial as a way of attracting and obtaining better rates. Same goes for stayaways. So for anyone who doesn't know what stayaways are, these are blocks in different regions of the country where a pharmacy might need 2 months cover or more. The pharmacy pays for your travel costs and your hourly rate, of course, and usually your accommodation costs too. It's great for anyone who's looking to explore new regions of the country and new towns. For some people, a half-hour commute is enough. Others, however, like to go further afield. But these stay-away shifts aren't for everyone, particularly those with daily responsibilities in the home or with family. but many locums do find them to be some of the most exciting and rewarding in their calendars. With regards to travelling outside your radius, Locate a Locum actually has over 1,400 registered pharmacies across the UK, meaning that you have quite a selection of different workplaces where you can pick up shifts. And finally, by having more training in CPD, especially as we are fast approaching flu season, it'll be something that pharmacies are focusing on more and more throughout the selection process. As previously mentioned, Locate a Locum are hoping to offer discounted CPD courses in the coming weeks for you to avail of if you want to, and we'll even consider offering free courses to locums who are actively working through us. Okay, well, that's all from me for now. I'm going to pass across to Stevie, who's going to do a quick poll with us before handing over to Alison, who's going to talk about taxes.
Okay, thanks, Lauren. That was really interesting. If anyone's got any questions on anything Lauren's covered there, pop it into the chat box, and we'll cover it at the end. Just a quick poll before we get started. We hand over to Alison. Just to give a bit of context for Alison's presentation, just hoping to know, are you self-employed or a limited company whenever you're locuming? So I will just launch this poll, and then again we'll give it 20 seconds this time. We don't need as long as 30, and we're just getting insight into what you guys are doing and what you're thinking. And like I say, it'll shape some of this presentation and how to get the best out of your money. So yeah, I'll close that off. So that's everyone's voted there, and I'll just share the results. So yeah, as we thought, 92% self-employed. Thanks very much for being giving us that information. I'll just switch over. So essentially, we've pre-recorded some of Alison's presentation just because it's quite detailed. So we pre-recorded a little bit of it. I'm going to start the video now, but Alison and a couple of guys from Foremans are on the call, so they can pitch in and answer any questions at the end. But just for now, I'll let this play through. Hopefully. Lauren, are you okay seeing this now?
Yeah, I can see that perfect.
Okay, perfect, guys. I'll just hand over to Alison here on the video recording.
Hello, thank you for taking the time to watch this webinar. My name is Alison Ensor and I'm a partner at Foremans LLP. Foremans is a chartered accountancy practice specialising in helping the self-employed to maximise their earnings while staying compliant. I hope this webinar proves useful and answers some, if not all, of your queries. We are going to take a look at the trading options for locums and what are the main advantages and disadvantages of those options. We're also going to explore what tax allowable expenses are available and what you should be claiming. Looking at the trading options for locums, there are two main ways to trade. Firstly, as self-employed, and secondly, through a limited company. There is a third method through an umbrella payroll company, but I don't propose to go through that in this webinar. You can work through a limited company and be self-employed during a tax year. You just need to account to HMRC for all the income you receive from both sources. HMRC recognise that the average freelance locum earns double what the average employee earns in the UK. So what you need to consider now is the best way to trade. Which way is working for you? You may already be working as self-employed or through a limited company, but is that actually the best option at the present time? Let's look at the first option for being self-employed, sole trader. As a locum, you can be a sole trader, but what does that actually mean? Well, what it is the business entity is owned by you and run by you, with no legal distinction between the owner and the business. You are the business. You are entitled to keep all the profits once all taxes are paid and all expenses deducted. We are all aware that as an employee, you get paid for the hours that you work. Your employer then deducts your tax and NI and pays it directly over to HMRC. The difference with being self-employed and a sole trader is that you are paid gross. It's then your responsibility to pay your suppliers, calculate your tax and your NI, and then pay that over to HMRC. What you're left with is your profit. The advantage of being a sole trader is that you can choose when and where you want to work. So if you want to expand your skills, you may choose a particular contract. Or if you decide to work flat out for 6 months of the year and then decide to take 6 months off, you can do that. An employee can't. They're tied to a contract of employment. The flexibility, independence and autonomy comes at a price. Because you are a sole trader and you are the business, if something happens to your business, then your personal assets could be at risk. For example, if you're not paid by a client and you owe money to a supplier, then the supplier could come after your personal assets. There is no distinction between you and the business. Financially, working through a limited company is a better option at the current time. You also need to consider administration. There will be books to keep and records to keep and reports to file. The second option is to work through a limited company. So what do we actually mean by working through a limited company? A registered limited company will be registered with Companies House. It is a legal entity within the law, as in a legal person. So it has its own liabilities and responsibilities. The individuals involved will be directors, and they direct the day-to-day operations of the business. Shareholders own the shares and own the business. The directors are responsible to those shareholders for reporting how they have maintained the business for them. You can have one director and one shareholder, but that director can be a shareholder and the shareholder can be a director, or they can be individual people. To get paid through your company, you still have to go out and work and you still have to agree a rate with the agency or client. The difference is that the money comes into your company rather than coming to you direct as it does with a sole trader. The company receives the money and then pays the director a salary and any outstanding expenses. It then pays any suppliers and calculates the corporation tax on the profit. The corporation tax gets paid over to HMRC and anything that's left is available profit. The available profit can then be distributed to the shareholders as dividends. Salary and dividends are taxed differently. Salary is taxed under income tax and dividend is taxed under its own rates. Currently, the dividend rates are lower than the income tax rates, making it a much better way of taking money from the company. It's more tax efficient. The advantages of working through your own limited company are the same as for the self-employed person, with the autonomy and freedom to do what you want to do. But the added bonus is the limited liability. Because the company is a person in its own right, it has its own responsibilities, including paying for its own liabilities. As long as the directors and shareholders have not done anything illegal or fraudulent, then they cannot be held responsible for the debts of the company. If, for example, the company does not get paid by the client and has to pay suppliers, then the suppliers can only approach the company and its assets for payment. It cannot look at the shareholders and directors to pay them from their own personal assets. Working through a limited company is financially the most tax advantageous currently due to the current tax regime. There are some disadvantages though. There are statutory requirements and a company is required to file annual accounts in a particular format every year. They have to do corporation tax returns and they will need to do confirmation statements. There is additional administration. Records have to be kept and accounted for. Let's look at a financial example so that we can see the income differences for the different trading options. In this example, the person has worked 40 hours at a rate of £35 an hour and has some business expenses, subsistence of £25 for a week and mileage of 250 business miles, which equates to 25 miles to work each day. The contracting premium is the enhancement that the client is willing to pay the person because they are self-employed. We're going to use a tax code based on the current tax year's rates, which is a personal allowance of £12,500. Working with those figures, we can see that an employee would take home £842 for the week. Somebody working as a sole trader, based on the same figures, would take £1,032. This is after they've paid the tax, or at least put to one side to be paid to HMRC at a later date. The limited company director and shareholder would take £1,088. As you can see, there is a slight advantage of being a company director and shareholder as opposed to a sole trader, but a large advantage of both of them over the employee. Bear in mind that the company director and shareholder is taking income home as a salary, expenses, and also as dividends. So, having decided which way you want to go, if you want to be a sole trader or a limited company, then how do you go about setting those up? If you want to work as a sole trader, you must register as self-employed with HMRC. You should register by the 5th of October following the end of the tax year you became self-employed. So if you became self-employed now, you would need to register by the 5th of October 2021. HMRC will require your unique tax reference. You may not have come across this. We all have our national insurance number, but we also have this UTR. You have to apply to HMRC to get them to give you the number. It's a 10-digit number broken into two 5-digit blocks. If you do have any correspondence from HMRC, you may already have that on there as a reference number. You will also need your national insurance number and some information and details about what your business is actually going to do. Ideally, you should have this information before you try to register. Our best advice is to set up a separate business bank account. You don't have to, but it can be very difficult to keep track of your business transactions as opposed to your personal transactions if everything is going through one bank account. If you're going to use an accountant, they will normally like to see a separate bank account. And most importantly, if HMRC were ever to investigate, they will ask for the business records, which will include bank statements. And you may have to hand over your personal documents if you're not using a separate bank account. You must retain all business documents. The easiest way to do this is to open up a file and pop everything into there. Make sure you keep any correspondence, invoices, and any other documents that you think are important. You may want to consider VAT registration. The current VAT threshold is £85,000 turnover, but you don't have to have that turnover if you want to voluntarily register. It may be advantageous to voluntarily register if you're dealing with other businesses rather than the general public, as it's recognised as being a legitimate business. Obviously, HMRC have done their checks and are happy for you to be VAT registered, which can be used as a marketing advantage. Your business will need a year end to make up the records too. So why not consider the 5th of April? As a self-employed person, you are taxed under income tax, and the income tax year runs from the 6th of April to the 5th of April. So in order to make it easier to record your transactions and to report them to HMRC, you may wish to use the 5th of April as your year end. Finally, obtain suitable insurance. Remember, any liability is yours. If you've done any work incorrectly or there are any other problems, then it's your responsibility as an individual. You do not have any protected liability, and insurance may be the way to cover that. If you decide that you want to work through a limited company, then you're going to have to register that company at Companies House. because it's going to be a separate legal entity within the eyes of the law. So things to consider: you need a name, and that can't be the same as a name already registered. And it is important when marketing your business, so it is an important thing to do. But when you think of that name, you can always change the name at Companies House, so it is not always set in stone. You may also want to consider if you want any other shareholders and what types of share that you want to issue, because you can issue different types of share. The different types of share may be issued, for example, you can have different dividend policies. So anybody holding an A share gets £10, anyone holding a B share gets £5, and anybody holding a C share gets nothing. The dividend policy relates to the type of dividend. If everybody holds A shares, then regardless of what you want to pay out, everybody gets the £10. You may also wish to consider appointing other directors, or you may wish to keep the company to yourself and keep control of it, and therefore be the only director and shareholder. All of these things can be altered at some time in the future, but it will involve paperwork and filings with Companies House. You will also need to register the company with HMRC. HMRC will be notified by Companies House when your new company is set up, and you should be sent a UTR for the company. This is different to your personal UTR. Keep it safe. You are going to need that when you talk to HMRC. You must also tell HMRC that your company is active for corporation tax purposes within 3 months of starting any business activity. It may be that you set the company up and you don't trade for a couple of months. But when you do start to trade, you've got 3 months to let HMRC know what you'll do. Because the company is a separate legal entity, you will have to register a business bank account in the company name so that you can trade. Our other best advice is, again, retain all business documents. So make sure that you keep everything safe. Consider VAT registration for the same reasons as the self-employed. Consider a year end of the 31st of March to coincide with the corporation tax year. The corporation tax, remember, the company pays corporation tax, not income tax. The corporation tax year runs from the 1st of April to the 31st of March. So it makes life a little bit easier if you can have a year end of the 31st of March. You can change your year end at Companies House. You must also obtain suitable insurance. Even though it is the company that is liable, the company must have insurance, and your end client or your agency will have to see your insurance to ensure that everything is insured. Once you're up and running, you will need to keep records, and you need to keep the records of all the transactions that are going on in a period. So what fees and sales have you got? What purchases have you got? What expenses have you incurred? You will also need to know at any one point in time who owes the business money, who are the debtors, who are the creditors, who does the business actually owe money to. The best piece of advice is to keep it simple. Record keeping is also referred to as the bookkeeping of the business. It doesn't have to be complicated. You just need to record your transactions. So you could decide that paper books are the way forward. They're fairly easy to keep, although they can be time consuming if you're adding up columns and columns of figures. HMRC are also now moving towards digital, and from 2023 we'll be expecting all self-employed to register their information through software. There is a lot of software out there, but make sure it's suitable. You don't want to be paying for software that you're not using. So if it's got a very complicated fixed asset ledger that you're not going to use, why would you pay for it? You will also need a compatible computer for the software, and you might want to consider the cost. If you're starting out very simply, paper books are probably the way forward. You will also need training on the software to ensure you are using it correctly. Other things you could do: use a spreadsheet, list everything. If you pass your bookkeeping over to an accountant, it becomes their responsibility if they're working for you. So some different ways of considering how to do your bookkeeping. You may be thinking, my affairs are very simple, so do I need an accountant? Why would I want to pay for that? Well, an accountant should be more than just number crunching. They are more than just putting together your tax. There should be expert advice there. They should be able to advise you on tax allowable expenses, look through your books and advise what they think you should be claiming as well. Are there any tax allowances that you should be claiming? They will also ensure that you get everything into the correct format. If you're self-employed, you will need to fill in a self-assessment return. If you're completing accounts for a company, they have to be in a certain format. They should also make sure that you are aware of all the deadlines and the filing requirements, which will prevent penalties and fines. They will liaise with third parties. So, for example, there is an agent's helpline that the accountant should have access to, which means they can get through to HMRC far quicker than you can, and also will sit on the line waiting for HMRC to answer the phone while you're busy running your business. They can save you time, energy, and eventually some of your sanity. It's professional help with your planning of your business. A well-known phrase is, a good accountant should save you their fees in tax. So do consider using an accountant from day one, rather than just as a filing mechanism. A good accountant will be able to deal with HMRC, Companies House, and other third parties on your behalf, with your permission. However, you need to be aware anyone can call themselves an accountant. It's not a job title or job description that has any protection in law. So ensure your accountant is who you think they are. Ensure they're registered. Have a look at their qualifications. Are they regulated? Look for the logo. There are several accountancy institutions that are regulated. Foremans belong to the ICAEW, but there is also CIMA, the Certified Accountants, the ICAS. You need to look at them to make sure they have those qualifications. Make sure they're covered by adequate professional indemnity insurance. If something goes wrong, you want to be sure that you are covered and can make a claim. Make sure you know what your accountant is doing on your behalf. A good accountant should issue a letter of engagement stating what they will do on your behalf and what you will do on your behalf, and nothing gets lost in the middle, which could result in a penalty or a fine. Having considered how to trade, we're now going to have a look at some tax allowable expenses which you should be claiming in order to reduce your taxable income. When considering whether an expense is actually tax allowable for your business, the golden rule is to look at the expense and decide whether it actually has been incurred in order to generate income or turnover, either now or in the future. If it has, then it's probably allowable. If it hasn't, then it is not tax allowable. You can still claim it through the business, but you can't deduct it before you calculate your tax. Sole traders and one-person companies tend to have their trading address as their home address. If they move from that address to a temporary site, a temporary place of work, they can claim tax-free mileage from the business. So the money can be taken from the business without any tax. So for a locum pharmacist, this would mean when you leave home to where your temporary site is, where you are working, and back again. HMRC have accepted levels that you can claim, and they do not need them reporting. So if you travel in a car or a van up to 10,000 miles per annum, you can claim 45 pence per mile. This is to cover both the fuel and the running costs, so insurance, breakdown service, tyres, wear and tear, etc. Over 10,000 miles, HMRC consider that the wear and tear and the running costs will have already been covered in the 45 pence, and it reduces to 25 pence per mile. Motorcycles can claim 24 pence per mile, and if you bicycle to work, you can claim 20 pence per mile. HMRC also have tax-free subsistence levels that they are approved. So subsistence is from the time you leave your base, again that trading address, to return to your base. So if you are away for more than 5 hours, you can claim £5 with no receipt. If you're away for more than 10 hours, you can claim £10 with no receipt. If you have actual receipts and they are more than that, or you would prefer to claim the receipts, you can claim the receipts. You cannot claim both. You have to keep records both for the mileage and for the subsistence, date, time, and where you went. One thing we have to look at for tax allowable expenses, are they relevant? So for example, is the training relevant? So if a pharmacist goes and does a pharmacy management course, that would be relevant if they were going to work as a pharmacy manager. If an IT consultant went and did a pharmacy management course, would that be relevant? Well, it could be. If the IT consultant was looking at specialising or writing programs for pharmacies. Similarly, subscriptions. Is the subscription relevant? So if you have a subscription to the General Pharmacy Council, that would be relevant. But would an ICAEW subscription be relevant? Well, it would be if you were an accountant in a pharmacy or for a pharmacy company. Similarly, clothing, we have to look at, do you actually need it? So health and safety equipment, very prevalent at the moment. Is it needed? Well, in most cases, yes. Uniform, is it a uniform? Has it got a logo on it? Does it have a name? Or is it just a t-shirt? Laundry allowance, well, why would you need laundry allowance? Are you working in a particularly dirty environment where the washing has to be done separately? So these are all things that you need to look at and consider. There's no black and white with tax allowable expenses. It's a case of, can you argue that it is relevant to the business and help generate that turnover? Finally, I want to take a quick look at self-assessment tax returns. These are a return that, regardless of whether you are working through a limited company or whether you are self-employed, you should be completing. The first thing to say is not everyone needs to complete a self-assessment tax return. You do need to complete one if your tax affairs are complicated, and there are certain categories of individuals who must, which includes the self-employed and company directors, also trustees and anyone in receipt of foreign income. But the self-employed and company directors are where you as a locum will sit. The advice is for anyone else, if their income is greater than their personal allowance, they possibly need to look at one. And for 1920 and the current tax year 2021, that personal allowance is 12,500. Beware, it is a self-assessment tax return, so it is your responsibility to know whether you need to file one, and it is also your responsibility to complete it. HMRC's computer systems are improving all the time, and that information that is reported to them, they are getting better and better at checking using computer systems. So it needs to be correct. There are fines and penalties if you do not complete. Self-assessment tax returns are annual, and the tax period runs from the 6th of April to the 5th of April. So the latest tax year that is completed was the 6th of April 2019 to the 5th of April 2020. The filing deadlines are, if you file on paper, which some people still do, you must file by the 31st of October following the end of that tax year. So for 2019-20, you'd be expected to file on paper by the 31st of October 2020. The online filing date is the 31st of January following the end of the tax year. So for 2019-20 again, we would be looking to file by the 31st of January 2021. You don't have to wait till those deadlines, you can file earlier. Any tax that's due on the tax returns is also due by the 31st of January. So for 19-20, the tax would be due to be paid by the 31st of January 2021. Hopefully that whistle-stop tour has given you an insight into the different trading options and has provided some information for you to go away and look at the way you are trading or the way you might want to trade, or has given you reassurance that the way you are trading is what you want to do. Obviously, everybody is different and wants different things from life and from their business, but that should give you a basis to have a look at what is going on. Thank you for listening. I hope it has been useful. If you have any questions, then please feel free to forward those on now and we'll try to deal with them for you. Alternatively, if you want to contact us at a more convenient time, then please do so and we will be more than happy to help with any queries you may have. I look forward to hearing from you.
Great, thank you very much. That was some really fantastic information there from Alison. I hope everyone found that useful. There's an absolute raft of information, and there's a lot of questions that have come through in the meantime, which I will try and fire through. Just before we get to the Q&A, we have a number of resources. I know there was a few people there on the Q&A who had said that there was slight issues with the volume that wasn't coming through, but I can assure you we will collate a recording after this and it'll be sent directly to everyone's inbox who's registered, and it'll have full audio on it. So don't worry about if you missed anything, there'll be a chance to catch up and we're always available to ask us any questions post-webinar. So just the resources, we have a full help centre available for Locums. So I will send the information on afterwards. So any questions that you may have are usually answered. We've got frequently asked questions section. The WhatsApp groups, there's access to over 500 Locums for advice, and a few people have asked me to send the links. We'll do that post-webinar as well. And then Foremans website, I know the guys at Foremans are going to put together an offer for everyone who's on this webinar, a discounted offer. So that is fantastic, and we really appreciate that. So Alison, I know you're on the webinar, so could you want to run through the Q&A now? I can read the questions out, and you can try and answer them. And don't worry if it's too long-winded, you can take it offline with everyone, and we can get Alison to follow up afterwards. So Alison, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, and we'll see what we can do for everybody.
Perfect. Right. Well, I'll just start at the bottom and work my way up. And Alison, if there's too many, you let me know and we can come back.
I will do.
So first one is from Jenny. What percentage can you claim in your tax return for mortgage/council tax payment as a locum?
You cannot claim those as a locum. What you would do, it depends if you are working from home. You can only claim home allowance if you are actually working from home, and that doesn't include doing invoicing, finding jobs, that sort of thing. You need to actually be doing something at home for your business. There is an allowance which is £4 a week, which HMRC will let you claim without any discussion, as long as you're working from home. So I hope that answers that one.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Alison. So next one is, how do you claim the 45p per mile and the £5 to £10 for being out of the house for only 5 to 10 hours?
Right, you actually,
that makes sense.
yeah, you claim as tax allowable expenses. So if you've got income coming in from self-employment, in whatever way, you claim the 45 pence from your business, and you can take that money. So say you get £1,000 into the business, you can take your £45 or whatever it is as your 45 pence a mile out of your business. You can claim it on your self-assessment tax return, but it's best to do it straight out of the business.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. And again, just to reinforce, if there's any questions post-webinar, guys, and you want to get into any more detail, you can send them through and we'll make sure they get Alison and the team. Okay, so Alison, next one from Douglas. As a rough guide, how much of your income should you set aside to pay tax at the end of the year? Oh,
that's a difficult one because it depends how much you're earning. Income tax, you get a basic rate at 20%, and then the higher rate is 40% over £37,500 if you're earning that much. So that's a difficult one. I would estimate probably putting 30–35% of your money away.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. So Roisin asked this one. I was under the impression Locum couldn't claim business miles. I'm not sure if that one's for you.
Right, you can claim business miles, provided your trading address. So if you're self-employed, it's your trading address for you as a business, or your limited company, that's your trading address. As long as you're going from your trading address to wherever it is you are working. If you're there for more than 2 years, you can't. And the moment you realise that you are going to be there for more than 2 years, you must stop claiming it. But you should be able to claim that.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. Hopefully that answers your question. And the one from Seamus, can you be employed and self-employed at the same time? Is it worthwhile or is it complicated?
Yes, you can be self-employed and you can be employed at the same time. You need to account to HMRC on a self-assessment for your self-employment and for your employment income, but it should be fairly straightforward to do that. The advantages, you probably answer that better, Steve, than I would, but the advantages are that you've got some flexibility.
Yeah, I suppose I would just say you've got a huge amount of flexibility. You can work all over the country if you like. You can experience different pharmacies, different practices, different chains of pharmacies, independents. You can get a real feel for what you like, and you can meet a real variety of people. So flexibility wise, and is it worthwhile? Yeah, it's great. So yeah, next one, hopefully that answers it as well. So it's a bit of a longer one. I started locuming halfway through the 2019-2020 tax year. So could you please do a quick run through of how to calculate the tax already paid as part of my tax for full-time employment that I used to be in? That might be a bit of a longer one, Alison. Maybe give it a bash.
Yeah, that's quite complicated. Well, not complicated, but it would be a long answer. In summary, what you need to do is add up all your income. So you should have a P45 from the employment when you left it, and then work out your locum work, take off your tax allowable expenses, add all your income together and work out your tax. That's what you do on your self-assessment.
Okay,
sorry,
that one might be that one might be worth sending. We'll send the doc afterwards, or
yeah,
direct you to some
if you
resources.
send that to me, I can certainly let you have a lot more information on that one.
Brilliant. I might have thought that one might have been a bit long for the webinar. Another one from Maria. Traveling by public transport, does it count as an expense?
Yes. You will need to keep receipts. So if you've got a bus tickets or train cards or whatever it is, yes, you can reclaim those. As long as you're going from your trading address to which is usually your home, to your place of work.
And this from Maria again, how about food? Can it be claimed as an expense?
That's your subsistence. So you either claim your £5 or your £10 or you claim your receipts.
Okay,
That's
brilliant.
what business is supposed to cover.
Brilliant. So another one is from Amma. How do you file for tax if you work as a full-time employee pharmacist and a locum pharmacist over the weekend? I think that's a similar question as before, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very similar question. That's where you really do need to register and do a self-assessment, and you would need your employment income on there, which will be you if you're full-time, you'll get a P60 at the end of the year, or a P45 if you've changed jobs, and then you put your locum work on there as well as self-employment.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, I'm just getting a few thank yous through, so you're answering people's questions effectively, which is great. Do you know what? There's similar sort of questions coming through, which I can share with you afterwards, Alison. I'm just aware we've been on nearly an hour now,
Oh gosh.
so that's quite a length of a webinar. I'm glad that everyone's found this quite helpful. There's a few more questions coming about real specific things you can claim as expenses. What we'll do is we'll forward those to Alison and the guys. Like I say, the guys at Foremans are going to give us, give you guys who have attended the webinar, a 20% discount. I believe, isn't that right, Alison? 20% discount if you quote.
Yes, yeah, we've got
we'll send something out, yeah.
Some information and a code coming out, so that yeah, there'll be a discount on getting your self-assessment done.
Okay, brilliant. So yeah, we'll send that out post-webinar, guys. Apologies, we can't answer all the questions. There's one more, do you know what, because we didn't answer many, there's one more for us that I skipped over before. How much money is it possible to make as a locum? Really, just to say that is possibilities are endless. Obviously, there's filters on our app on our desktop site that allow you to sort by rate. So if you're really concerned about the rates and you're not concerned about where location-wise you work, you can earn as much as you want really as a locum, as much time as you're willing to put in against the rates. So yeah, hopefully that's that answered. And get in touch with us if you want to know more about that. So yeah, do you know what? Right on an hour now, I think we'll wrap up. I'm getting a lot of thanks through from everyone who's attending, and we have a huge amount of attendees here, so it's been really useful. And a huge thank you to Alison and the guys at Foremans for coming on and organising this discount for our local community. It's really fantastic. Alison, do you want to say a few things?
Just if anybody's got any questions, just please feel free to send them through to us direct, or send them through yourselves, and we will do our best to come back to you with some information. We do a lot of free illustrations and that sort of thing, so if somebody really wants to know how something works, more than happy to talk them through it. So okay, look forward to
fantastic. Thank you, Alison. And Lauren, thank you for the early part of the presentation. It was great. Hopefully that sheds a bit more light on why you should make applications, the rates that we offer, and how it looks from a pharmacy point of view, and also our community. So yeah, I encourage people to get involved in our community. It's a really great group of people, and there's a lot of insights there into the industry, and also there's a lot of perks, which is obviously fantastic. So thanks very much for everyone attending. I'll wrap the webinar up now, and you will get the recording directly to your inboxes tomorrow. So thank you very much. Thanks, okay, Alison. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you.
Bye,
bye,
guys.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.